From the Front Office Wealth Strategy Studio in beautiful Edwardsville, Illinois, welcome to the Creatures of Creativity podcast, the podcast focused on the people and the process of creating. This is episode number 3 of season number 1. I am David Leip, and as always, we are presented by Whole Street Productions, creating powerful stories through film. Check them out at wholestreetproductions.com. And in the studio tonight, from Whole Street is principal partner Ryan Tollison. Good to see you, Ryan.
You too, Dave. Great to see you.
What are you working on these days?
We got some things coming up. Documentary.
Herman Shaw.
Yeah, looking forward to that. That's going to be a good one. Just kind of getting caught up from a really busy first part of the year. It was pretty slam usually we're like dead in January, February. And for some reason, we left and right, we were getting requests. So we're getting our breath back, taking a little break, and getting ready to recharge for the next quarter.
And a big part of that busy schedule was, of course, the EHS Athletic Hall of Fame films, which were unbelievable, as always.
Oh, thank you.
Congratulations to you and Michael on producing some fantastic films once again.
Oh, thank you. I mean, you obviously had a huge role in it, and I think they're just getting better and better every year. And it's just a fun process. I mean, it's a great time. It's stressful as all hell, but it's a fun time. And when you get to see them, displayed in front of people and people get to enjoy them, it's well worth the stress and effort, in my opinion.
It's such an emotional night.
Yeah, hugely emotional.
Yeah,
hugely emotional.
All right, enough about you. Mm-hmm. Joining us in the studio tonight is my friend who I've known for several years now, Renee Childs from Youth Be Heard.
Hello, thanks for having me.
How about a round of applause for you? We're not big on
so many people are clapping.
This is actually a fake wall, and there's just a ton of an audience here.
We're not big on special effects around here, but that's the one that we have. So really impressed with YBH, or Youth Be Heard, and so I really want to thank you as the founder of Youth Be Heard. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Let's start with you. Tell us your story.
Well, that is a deep question. So let's see. We'll just start with, grew up in a small town, Southern Illinois.
Greenville.
Yep. And let's see, studied international business and played tennis in college. Before going to
At
college,
Greenville?
I went to Olivet.
Okay.
Yep. So before that, though, I took a year off, and I was going to go to Colorado State University and study interior design. Lived there for 6 months and thought, I don't think I want to do that. I think I'll just be working with, people that maybe aren't that enjoyable to work with. And I think that doesn't sound like the right fit. So I ended up backpacking through Europe for 6 months at, 18 with 2 Canadians that I met there.
Just randomly met them?
So there was a school I was living in Estes Park, Colorado. That's where I was I was working 3 jobs at 18. Starbucks, before Starbucks was cool, by the way.
I think it was probably cooler
a while
then.
ago. And waitressing and working at an outdoor gear store. So I met some people there who were part of this school that it's called Cape and Ray Tarnhof schools. So they had a school in England and they had a school in Estes Park as well. So I ended up going to those schools and met some people there and backpacked through Austria and Italy and Greece, a few more countries. But yeah, that was great. Learned a lot. Glad that I was safe. That was before cell phones. My parents didn't know what country I was in. I was sleeping on a beach in Italy and they didn't know where I was. So my mom, I'm sure I gave her some gray hair, but
I didn't realize you were such a crunchy hippie.
I know. I mean,
who knew?
People sense this about me, but they're always a little unsure. I keep people guessing. Yeah.
Good for you.
So after that, I was, I'm like, I probably should actually go to college, and get a degree. So, studied international business and, Spanish. I still had this international travel bug. So I studied abroad twice, while there. So I was only at school for like 2.5 years in the United States. So, But it was actually cheaper to study abroad. I transferred to University of New York in Prague, Czech Republic, and transferred all those courses back. So that was my kind of make your own study abroad program. And it was cheaper than just paying the tuition. So it kind of worked out. So yeah, the other study abroad was Central America. So I don't know how in depth we want to go, but I've had a lot of jobs. I worked in business for 10 years. I worked in a coffee brewer manufacturing company. And then we moved to Los Angeles area just because we wanted to try something new, it was either that or, move to China and teach English, or Russia. We just had this kind of adventurousness to us.
Adventure.
Yeah.
This is you and your husband?
Yes. Yeah. So anyway, I worked for a software company for a few years, and it was during that time that I was like, I think I need to do something that has direct impact on people. I'd always liked working with teens, and I'd had kind of these big dreams of like, maybe I'll start a camp one day, or something. I feel like my youth was really impacted by especially my youth group leader growing up, and he'd take us on adventures, and I just wanted to be able to give that to others in some way. And just having kind of a cool job that where I made decent money wasn't enough for me to be like, I'm making an impact on this world. So I think we talked about earlier, Mike Patrick, he didn't grow up. I grew up down the street from him.
Greenville tennis legend.
That's right. And he had a tennis court in his yard. But yeah, he worked in education. That was his career, teaching social studies and coaching tennis. And he told me when I think I was in high school, he's like, Renee, if you want to change the world, you should be a teacher. Teachers change the world. So I'm not technically a teacher, but I do work in a school as well. And I definitely think that there's a lot of jobs that change the world, but that's definitely one of them.
You are currently a social worker in the District 7 school district, in the Edwardsville school district. It's okay to say that, right?
Yeah, it's I'm technically a counselor, but by training, I'm a social worker. Okay. So I went back to school at age 35. We moved back across the country to be closer to family. I had 2 kids. Miss my mom. It's hard to raise kids when you're not near family.
Oh, tell me about it.
For
Yeah.
Sure.
I wanted my kids to have that, relationship with family, grandparents. So yeah, went back to school for social work at 35.
And have been working in District 7 for how many years?
This is 3.5, 4 years. So
Okay.
I started right after COVID. So January of 22 is when I started.
Well, all of that is rife for discussion for the creative process. But Youth Be Heard, I think, is what is really an amazing story. So in what year did you found Youth Be Heard?
2018. So I graduated from with my social work, Master's of Social Work. And I had been working at East St. Louis High School doing some social emotional groups, but I also created this writing program at East St. Louis High School. And in part, that was because I was seeing how all the research was, I was deep in the research. And I saw how students had this creative, this creative talent to them. And like many high schools, those that were getting the attention were in sports. So I love sports, but that was kind of like those were the celebrities of the school. So I wanted to create something where those that maybe weren't in sports had their creativity celebrated. And I also, writing is something that's a really powerful tool where you don't, there's this quote that there's no better listener than the page. So the process of writing really takes these feelings, these experiences, these emotions that can be very confusing, and, we're caught up in our feelings. And when the process of writing them down moves that to the logical side of our brain, where we have to formulate it and organize it to communicate that to someone else. And so it really helps us see our own feelings and kind of step back and objectively understand our own experience. So writing is this powerful tool. It's a therapeutic tool. And so I'm seeing all this, the mental health crisis that's, showing up in the research pre-COVID, by the way. And the screaming issues are anxiety, depression, a lot of that. There's complex factors, but one of those being the iPhone, the cell phone, the smartphone, kind of revamping the way that people operate in the world. So yeah, Youth Be Heard was meant to be this outlet for youth who maybe didn't have access to therapy, and to be able, because not everybody can go to therapy, right? It's expensive. There's not enough clinicians that work with youth. So this is meant to be something that is a positive youth development, which I can get into a little bit if you want, and a media literacy organization that is there for them to grow with them. So it was born out of this group in East St. Louis where I saw they were writing poetry that was too good to not be seen. It was too good to just live in their notebook. So I thought, I really want them to have something that, publishing is hard. Being a writer and getting your work out there for an adult is very difficult. So I wanted them to have something that had low barriers where they could get the feedback, get the editing process, and kind of like a supportive coaching manner, and be able to see their work out there to build confidence and healthy self-worth in themselves.
It's hard to be published, but it's never been easier.
Right.
You can build your own website. You can record your own songs and start your own YouTube channel, and you can put it out there for everybody. Mm-hmm. When you think about 50 years ago, you had to come up with a publishing deal with an agent. It was, it's not easy, and it can also be overwhelming if you've never done it. Mm-hmm. But you saw the value in it as in terms of therapy and mental health, not just let's do something cool and artistic and expressive, but let's do something healthy for these kids. I'm going to read something from your website. The Youth Be Heard story, and this is from your website, which is youthbeheard.org. Mm-hmm. So go check that out, people. But from your website, it says, our vision for all youth is to believe in their own value and potential. YBH was born out of a passion for all youth to believe in their worth and in the process counteract increasing youth mental health issues with an innovative and research-based approach. That's the language that you came up with. But you're publishing and giving a format and giving space to so many things other than just writing. Talk about some of the other things that you're doing with Youth Be Heard.
Yeah. Well, and one thing, you mentioned something about how it's never been easier to be published. And I just wanted to touch on that for a second.
Self-published, I should say.
Yeah. But also, it's incredibly vulnerable to write a poem or your own story and put it on your own social media page, So to have, and it's not really the right audience. So you have people reading your stuff that maybe aren't interested in that. So being able to put it on a platform where, like, this is what it's designed for, this is made for you, and people are coming to read your work that are the right audience. So I just wanted to touch on that too, because it's a valuable point.
And somebody else thinks my writing is good enough to put it on their website, right? As opposed to I'm just putting it on my own Snapchat.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we go through a whole editing process. 2 people read it before it's published, and they have to work for it. So, it's something for them to be proud of. So the other piece that you said, okay, I also wanted to comment on that youth believe in their own value and potential. That's so huge to me, just because if they don't believe in themselves, like if we don't believe we can do something, we won't even try. But if they have these big dreams and they're like, maybe I can, maybe I can change the world in this way. I have been accused of being an idealist, but then they'll try. And the quote, I think it's, for every child who believes in themselves, an adult believe first. I think it says parent, but there's a lot of kids who don't have parents that necessarily provide that. So this is an organization that can provide that we believe in them. The question about the other work. Okay, so yeah.
So not just writing.
Right. We also have various forms of writing, but also visual art. And, even we'd be open to video, we'd be open to music, even, some short monologues. So yeah, it's just part of their creative realm. Why not? It's great to publish their work and showcase their work.
Sculpture,
yeah,
film, right?
Yeah.
All this amazing stuff that you're providing a format, an outlet for these kids to produce this work. I think it's just tremendous. And you are accepting submissions. It's not like you only accept them for a short period of time and then you produce something. You accept these submissions all year long.
Right. Rolling submissions. Mm-hmm.
From the website again, we accept all forms of writing, including opinion, exposition, poetry, short stories, song lyrics, and more. We do not currently accept long-form writing such as full scripts or plays or books. How much of what you get are things that kids have done for assignments for their school?
Quite a few.
Which is fine.
Right, which is fine. And I love that teachers are encouraging them to submit because, it's different when you're writing for a real audience. That's when you're creating in a way where you're thinking outside yourself. You're thinking about what value am I adding for the reader. Sometimes that can be difficult because, we get 50 submissions that are book reports on the same book. And that's just not really going to be publishable for us. But we've had some great stuff. We've had some good poetry. And I've learned from, I didn't study literature or English or writing for that matter. It's a passion of mine. So I'm learning, from them, like about these Sijo poems that we've been publishing.
What's that?
I think it's a Korean form of poetry where you have 3 lines and the first 2 are kind of, I guess the third line is like a dramatic switch where there's something that you think with the first 2 lines, what's happening. And then something is revealed that flips your perspective with the third line. So, and it has to do with syllables and, it's a complex form of poetry. But yeah, I've learned a lot just from these various types of poetry that I didn't know about before.
Tell me about the process. A young person sends you a poem, and then what happens? You said it has to be read twice, and then go ahead.
Yeah. So we have a great team of volunteer editors. I think you know one of them.
I think I'm married to one of them. I think she's asked me before, hey, read this poem. And I'm like, I don't know. What do you want me to say to this kid? I don't know.
Yeah.
So I make her do it. I'm like, no, you do it, Stacy.
Yeah.
I've got enough poems and essays and short stories that I've read today. But
maybe when you're retired, you'll miss it.
Yes.
You'll come help us out.
Yeah, there you go.
We're always looking for good volunteer editors. No,
I would like to volunteer Kirk Schleter, who is our next guest scheduled for this show, by the way.
I think he's a little busy, but we'll take him if he's not too busy.
He's got lots of time right now. He's on maternity leave, so he's got time to do stuff like this. So a young person submits their poem and it gets read by 2 members of your team who make suggestions, and writing is very personal. Mm-hmm. So if a teacher marks an algebra question wrong, it doesn't hurt like when a teacher writes on your essay and says, these sentences are just awkward. So you give feedback to this young person, and then do they have to take it?
They do not. I mean, this is their work. So we give them feedback, and we try to be as kind as possible, just knowing that, this is somebody who maybe is submitting their work for the first time. So whenever I edit, for example, I try to put in lots of good things, just like I love this line, because sometimes the good feedback is just as valuable, when you're writing and you're like, is that funny? I don't know if that's funny or not. And then somebody says, oh, that made me laugh. You're like, all right, that one was good. So giving them the positive feedback is helpful. And also just saying like, we're going to do a couple rounds of editing. The first might be just kind of a broad editing on the idea and the content, but then we'll go through and with a fine tooth comb and do more of the copy editing. And we try to not edit so much that they get discouraged, but at the end of the day, it needs to be work that we all feel good about publishing. And we'll give them the option, some things it's, this is a suggestion, you can choose. Other things, it's like for us to publish this, we need this X, Y, or Z to change. And they're always welcome to take our edits and publish it somewhere else if they don't feel like making those edits.
And your board is all over the place. You've got a young woman from Texas, another young lady from Minnesota, a gentleman, young guy from Illinois, girl from Missouri, Texas, Minnesota. People are from all over the place. This is not a St. Louis area thing. It's not even a Midwest thing. It's a national thing. Is it worldwide?
Yeah, we've received submissions from several other countries. We even had a mentorship program there was a mentee from Bangladesh, another from, I think it was Sudan. So we're on the World Wide Web, so they find us. We had someone on our youth advisory board from Morocco. We've had submissions from India, China, Spain, Canada. So I think we partnered in the beginning with this other organization called Round Peer that is, I would call it like LinkedIn for youth opportunities. And they had kind of an international focus, so that they've had poetry contests and things like that I've been a volunteer judge for. So that kind of helped get the word out internationally. We're kind of like a local, national, international organization. It's we don't quite know where we fit, but we want to serve all youth. But we started here. We started in this area, so we definitely have a heart for this area. And so we do some programming that is in person, and of course that's here.
I feel like with everybody being everywhere, do you do a lot of Zoom meetings? How does that work?
Yeah, Google Meet.
Google Meet.
Right. Yeah. So our youth advisory board will meet, and it's over Google. We have some Poets Be Heard, which those are always such special nights. But we'll take submissions from youth and give them the chance to read their poetry live for the first time, often ever. So I have a cool story about that. But
Let's do it.
Okay. So one of our Poets Be Heard performers, she was 15 years old from Minnesota, and she, just read her poem for the very first time. She had never read out loud before. So, and we preface this that, this is meant to be completely supportive, just for you to get a chance to hear your voice, get a chance to have a real audience, and we're only going to clap, snap, say positive things. So she went on to compete and win several of the Scholastic Awards. She got into Yale, and she was also on our youth advisory board. She was a first-generation college student. So it was really cool to partner with her and support her creative ideas as well. So we, through our youth advisory board program, I guess you would call it, it's not really a program. It's kind of a mentorship 2 ways, where they help us be relevant to youth, and we support them in their journey. So we want to support youth-led ideas. So one of her ideas was this peer mentorship program, where she set up this, we are going to help be that support to some other writer, some other young writer. And interestingly, some of these mentees were older than some of the mentors, but it was really cool. It was neat to see that happen organically, and to see it be from youth all over the country and serving youth even internationally.
Are you getting a lot of submissions? Can you give me some idea of how many you're getting on a monthly basis?
They come in waves. So if an entire class, for some reason, a couple of teachers in Wisconsin and Minnesota really like to have their whole class submit work. So we might get 20 in a day. Other times we might just get a couple a week. And there are times where we'll just get a few a month. So sorry, I keep hitting this mic.
It's okay.
It just varies. Yeah. But we aim to publish once a week at least. But it depends on what submissions we get, the quality of them, and if the youth are up for the feedback and the rounds of editing. And that often is the reality that, they get the feedback and, don't take the time or maybe don't choose to do that difficult part of reworking the piece.
Well, the Monet quote, who would ever be so vain to say that a work of art is ever truly finished? You can kind of give them that one of, hey, we got to keep working on this thing a little bit. But sometimes you have to get these poems and think, man, that's just great the way it is. Let's go with it. Let's put it out there just like that. That happens sometimes, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, one of our first pieces is, it's called The Nice Things by Kamantiana McShann, and she was one of the East St. Louis students. And I gave this prompt to the students, write all the compliments you've ever received, because as human beings, we tend to focus on what's wrong with us, like on your test, you look at what you got wrong, not the things you got right, or a review, if you might get one negative review on something, but 99 good reviews, and the negative one is what we notice, right? So this is an effort to kind of flip that and switch to what are the things that are great about you. So they made this list, and then the next session we worked on making it into a poem. And hers was so beautiful. And it was genuine and it was funny. And that was the poem where I was like, this can't just live in her notebook and nobody ever read it again. This needs a place, So that was one of those poems. And now, that one has received a ton of views.
Is it on your is that on your website?
It is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a lot of these works become permanent parts of your website?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Where does the money come from? Because this is the hard thing, because this is a great idea, and you've got a board and you've got a website, and this takes work.
Yeah.
And for you, you've got a bill-paying job. You've got a real job. But this type of project needs funding. Mm-hmm. Where does the money come from?
Yeah. I mean, we have some individual donors, especially locally, who have supported us. The Karen Sue Lieber Foundation has given us some money, a couple $1,000s, and that goes a long way. I mean, we really do everything as cheap as possible. So we try, number one, not to have many expenses, but yes, there are definitely expenses, and it would really help if we had more funding. But I've tried, so two things. We have a fundraiser that we have started. Our first fundraiser was last November called, what was it called? Do you remember? Make Some Noise for Youth Be Heard, something like that. Yeah.
My live-in editor was sick.
Yes.
We'll
blame her.
COVID. No, that was the truth, because she and I were looking forward to going.
Yeah.
I remember very, very clearly what happened.
No, I appreciate you guys. I know you're going to come. I'm just giving you a hard time. And Stacy is amazing. She is fantastic.
Well,
I got to give a shout out to Stacy Leib. She's awesome.
It's her fault we didn't come to the thing, though. But we still bought our tickets to support the program. So
yeah.
And that fundraiser, if I'm going to have a fundraiser, I'm going to have a trivia night because I'm boring. But your fundraiser was much cooler. What happened at this thing?
So there's it's terrifying to put your work out there and be creative, so it takes some guts. And we wanted to give adults this kind of fresh look at what it takes to be creative, that kind of both the excitement and the fear, and then overcoming that and having fun with it. So we had these 3 events. We had 4, but nobody signed up for I figured nobody would. It was the lip sync dance competition.
no.
I was like, just in case somebody would sign up for that.
Ryan's a dancer.
Yeah, you look at me. I'm just chomping at the bit to get out there.
Yeah. Well, you're invited to the next one.
He'll be there.
I have high hopes
We'll
for
be
you.
there.
Might have to have some drinks before that one. But
Whole Street Productions will be there filming this thing.
there we go. Yeah.
There we go.
So what were the three things?
Okay, so we had a painting contest, we had a poetry contest, and then we had this lip sync contest. So the poetry contest was once you got there, if you registered for it, then we gave you the prompt there and gave you 30 minutes to write a poem and then read it out loud to people.
Oh,
so
wow.
I think my mic just went off.
No, you're good.
No, I think
Your headphones might have.
Okay.
keep going.
All
You're
right.
good. You're good.
Okay, I can't hear myself, but I'm back. I can hear myself now. There we go. Nope.
Nope.
Now I can't.
We're good.
Okay.
So what were the other two?
All right. So we had some really fantastic poems. And then we had a painting contest. And, the painting contest was fun too because it was people who just don't make the time to sit down and paint. And we had the canvases ready for them. We had the music, we had the paintbrushes. And somebody there, one of our board members, Britt Lucan, she studied studio art and she actually was, a painter. So she was there to support and give some ideas. So yeah. And then we had a little voting. And then the final thing that was really fun was that you could dare a friend to do something creative, and you could pick what it was. So if you had come, Dave,
what would you have picked?
I was going to have you and Kirk or Mike, Patrick, play air tennis from across the room and see who won the point. So
I'm not losing either one of those guys ever.
Yeah. So, so you could dare somebody for $10 to, do this creative thing. And we had some fun ones.
That's
we
cool.
had somebody was Mickey Mouse, did a Mickey Mouse impression. My husband got challenged to sing Frank Sinatra. And I think I was more embarrassed because he was singing to me.
No.
Really? What was he singing?
Fly Me to the Moon. Yeah.
Wow.
He's pretty good actually. So I got to give him credit. He's
wow.
pretty good.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
What was the prompt for the poets?
The prompt was, I think we had two. I'm trying to remember. One was something about youth today, writing about youth today, like what they're like. Somebody wrote a poem that had the word skibbity in it. So it was something about, youth today.
Who
Another
won? Do you remember who won the poetry?
I think Emily Morrison might have won, but because she got the votes, but then
Is that SJ's wife?
It is, yes. So so she's a good writer too. So, but she actually gave her award to Stephanie Krause, she's a local author. She's written several books. And her poem was fantastic as well. So she wrote a poem. She had a competition with her husband, Evan Krause, about the best poem that they could write about their new puppy. They got a third dog and they didn't really plan on getting a third dog. But her husband really loves this dog. And so he wrote about the dog and she wrote about his love for the dog. It was really fun. I loved just seeing people get out there and get creative and kind of loosen up a little bit. So our next fundraiser, I think I need to give it a title that, helps people know that they can be bad at this, because that's the whole point. We have to allow ourselves to mess up and be bad at something before we have any talent at it or are good at it. So I think the next one is going to be called No Talent Necessary, something like that. Yeah. So
Very
even if
good.
you're bad at your dancing, you can,
I'm especially bad.
that's the point.
Yeah.
The
I mean,
point
you got to
is
own it. If you own it, I feel like that's 50%. You're 50% of the way there,
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you're an amazing
Exactly.
actor. Ryan was in
Oh, boy.
Ryan and Michael made a Christmas film, and Ryan's. I think Ryan stole the show.
Well, it's easy when those are just my reactions to him in general with his nonsense. He did a little Bing Crosby. He actually recorded Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas, and then performed it to me, speaking of that, in my living room. And I was just kind of supposed to play the straight man role and just be, really deeply disturbed by the whole thing. And I was.
So you were.
So I really wasn't acting that much. It was, a lot of, I've known her for a long time. So a lot of years of that go on for sure.
Genuine
disgust and secondhand embarrassment. Love him, but and he'll do anything too, and I'll just sit there and watch. And I think he does a lot of the stuff he does just to get my reaction off of it. So I can't disappoint him in that regard. I've got to really just let him have it.
It's kind of fun talking about him when he's not here.
I know that's great. That's great.
So let's talk about the ideal for Youth Be Heard. In your ideal world, would this be something that was national, international, and everybody knew about it, and this was your full-time gig?
That's a great question. I like so many of the things I do. It's hard for me to say, I just wish I had more time, right? But yeah, I think international, like why not? Why not be there for youth to have this experience? So, but having more volunteer editors, to support that effort, or funding to, be able to actually pay them would be excellent.
How much collaboration are you getting from English teachers? Is that who you need? Do you need English teachers to work with you? Art teachers?
I think that as long as it wasn't a required submission, if it was something where it was like, hey, to one of your students, for example, like, this is really good, and letting them know that you believe in them, and that is huge to them, and having this opportunity to say, I think that you could take it one step further, and publish this, because I think more people should see this. I think it's a way for teachers to really build that confidence in their students. As far as saying, an entire class submit your work,
no,
I mean, they could, but yeah, I think that kind of puts a strain on the editors. And we do occasionally get some great stuff from that. So I wouldn't say nobody ever do that, but for them to be able to think about the reader, think about, what does my experience illuminate for someone else? Because the reality is we all have such unique experiences, even if you feel like you've lived a boring life, nobody's lived your life,
Well, I haven't been backpacking through
I
Europe.
guess you've lived your life.
I haven't slept. I haven't slept on the beach in Italy. I've just kind of been like doing tennis. My life compared to yours.
The tennis king, though. The tennis king. Yeah.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
All right. If an English teacher or a teacher is out there, and she or he is thinking, my kids have done some pretty spectacular, creative things, how do they get in contact with you? Through the website?
Yeah, I mean, they can have their students submit their work. It's youthbeheard.org/submit, and it's a Google form that they fill out, and they copy and paste the work in there. I mean, they could, I would say, be able just offer it to all your students, and maybe those students who use writing outside of class, who use it as kind of who journal or who use it as a coping skill. That might be a cool way for them to do something outside of school that's not for a grade. And I'll say just the positive youth development piece that's behind Youth Be Heard. That's a whole a field of study, that I learned about in social work, but it's this belief that youth have something to offer where they are currently, that they don't have to grow up to be valuable one day, maybe, but that as a 15-year-old who is experiencing the world in their shoes, that they have something to offer. They have a different set of passions, a lens to see the world that's different from us. So being able to share with us their perspective is valuable. I'm going to go on my research tangent just for a second.
Do it.
Okay, so there's this study that really impacted me. I was reading through all kinds of stuff just to help understand what we can do to help curb this mental health crisis among teens. And positive youth development, the other one's media literacy, if you want me to talk about that later. But positive youth development, there's a study that came out. There's a lot of studies, but this one was like the meta-analysis where it looked at all the studies and looked at what are the key components that really make the most impact on youth. And positive youth development, again, it's like looking at, rather than a deficit view that a lot of psychology takes, it's like the medical model of like what's wrong with you. Positive youth development is like what's right with you. What are your strengths and what do you have to offer? So anyway, there's all these things that you can do in positive youth development, but the three key actions that had the most impact and that were kind of like this magic dust, if you have these three, then they have a lot of great outcomes, is giving youth giving them, sorry, I haven't talked about this in a while. I'm trying to formulate it. Helping them to discover their natural passions and their sparks of interest that isn't like a top down or like we only do this at our school, so that's what you have to do, but helping them to be able to cultivate those natural interests, giving them adult mentorship around that interest, and then giving them a platform to share their voice. So a platform to share that. So those three things together had significant outcomes emotionally, psychologically, academically, and then they actually created good for the world. So those giving youth those things is kind of like selfishly, it's an investment for all of us in our future. So anyway, what was the original question?
I don't remember. I think ideally, what do you want to do with this? That was part of it. It's good. It's good. I love it. The tangents are what's great about this format.
Yeah.
This is not television where we have to fit something in a tiny little box and then edit it to make it clean. Oh, this is great.
Okay, so one more thing then.
Do it.
So positive youth development, like Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, those are good examples of positive youth development organizations. But typically around the age of 15, those opportunities are gone. Like they kind of dissipate. Either they're not, interesting to the youth or something happens. So there is just kind of this drop off of those opportunities for youth, especially outside of sports. So that's where I think the statistics were that only 10% of 15-year-olds have these positive youth development opportunities. So
outside of sports.
Right. Well, I think it did include sports in that.
Wow.
That wouldn't really make sense though.
Okay.
So I'll have to go back and look at that. It's been a few years since I read the study, but yeah, it was only 10% had access to a positive youth development organizational opportunity that they were involved with. So I think maybe part of that is the natural sparks of interest, the mentorship specific to that, and then the sharing of that. That's what they're talking about.
So Ryan and Michael talked a story, or Ryan shared a story about when he was in high school and he finally had a chance to make a film in one of his classes. And I've heard him tell the story so many times that I could probably tell it myself. But that story is exactly what she was talking about, the film that you made in high school. Tell that story again.
So there was two. We got to do The Death of Julius Caesar. Instead of writing a paper, we got to do a short film of that, which became a very long film. But then we did The Crucible, and it was supposed to be just like a scene or two, and it ended up being like the first two acts of this, and we had like everybody involved in it. My mom was sewing bonnets for the girls. We had the old log cabin in Bethalto that we used as the set. They let us use it, so it was a period piece for sure. And it was just a cool opportunity to be able to, not have to. I mean, I didn't even mind writing; it wasn't a thing. I just really wanted to do film.
You did more work on that than you would have done.
Oh, 100%. I could have wrote that paper in 2 days.
But because you were interested in it, it didn't feel like work. It was something in which you were invested.
Oh, yeah. It was awesome. I still equate Halloween, because we shot it around Halloween. I still equate that to that experience, and I get positive nostalgia when I think about it because it was such a cool experience. I don't think the teacher necessarily thought the scope was going to be what it was. But it was, for all of us, it was just a fun time to do. It was a great experience.
And it's not like you then had mentorship where somebody said, Ryan, you're really good at filmmaking. Why don't we put you in touch with these filmmakers who are going to mentor you, which is exactly what you're saying. I can see how that would be very powerful because schools aren't necessarily equipped to foster that creative drive. That's not what we talk about. I feel like, do you feel like schools are emphasizing the creative process?
I feel like a lot of teachers are strapped for time and, they've got a lot of students. So they're doing their best. And there's a lot of new things that come in, like learning new curriculum or whatever it may be. I think everybody has good intentions, but people are strapped for time. Yeah.
And it's also awkward in terms of how are you going to evaluate this? How are you going to grade it?
Yeah.
It's easy to grade a vocabulary quiz or a Scantron test. But a kid makes a film, a kid writes a poem. How do you grade that? Mm-hmm. I know how I do it, but it's not something that it's not common. We don't commonly learn how to do that as English teachers.
Yeah. And I think that's just the reality of it, but there's so much creativity to all of us, that doesn't quite fit into the educational mold or model that we have set up.
And that's my question. Mm-hmm. Should we be looking at that and changing that?
Yeah.
But
definitely.
It's not on the ACT. Is Stanford giving you money for writing great poetry? You talked about the girl who got into Yale. Mm-hmm. Did her poetry help her get into Yale?
Probably. I think that her showing the ability to put herself out there, and the highest form of learning is creativity. Creating means that you've taken all the bits and pieces that you've learned and putting them into something new. So that's the pinnacle. So we should definitely be, I think, looking at that. And, just project-based learning where you learn so much more if you're interested, right? In the topic, applying it to their real lives. I think that really enhances learning. And, the learning that we do can cross over among subjects.
Absolutely. For sure. If you could say something to every adolescent in the world right now, if they could hear you say one thing, what would it be?
Well, you should have given me this question before the podcast so I could think about it.
I want your spontaneous answer. Is it put your phone down and go to bed at night? That's one of the things.
That should be what they tell me.
One of the things that I would tell them is go for a walk every day, get some exercise every day.
Yeah.
Put your phone down at least an hour before you go to bed. And go to bed on time and give yourself enough sleep. No matter what
time.
Get
9 hours of sleep.
No matter what time school starts, give yourself enough sleep.
Yeah. That's a huge mental health boost. I mean, sleep is what holds us together. So that's good advice.
Thank you.
Yes. I would say if you get feedback, I would say keep going when you get feedback that might rub you the wrong way or might be critical. Don't take it personally, take it and learn from it and keep going. Don't give up. I think there are a lot of opportunities that, maybe I gave up a little too early where I thought, oh, this thing that I wrote must be terrible, and just end it there. But keep going because I think that people are closer than they realize to that success that they desire.
Any contests? Do you run contests with Youth Be Heard?
We do. We're going to have, so speaking of funding, we did get a grant from the state of Illinois, which we're excited about, specific to East St. Louis and Bond County, Illinois. So we will have a contest specific to those locations and those high schools. And that will be coming up this spring semester. So we're excited about that.
What's the contest? You can't say. You don't
I can't give you the prompt yet.
Okay.
But
it's a writing contest?
A writing contest
Okay.
for the high schools, and each grade level will get a cash prize. So freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, competing amongst their peers. So we'll have some fun prompts.
That's cool. Because I would have been okay with the answer, art is not for competition.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the things I tell my kids. We have competitions. I have them vote for the 3 best, and I take one of my old tennis trophies and I put masking tape over it and I write best poem in class, and I hand the kid my trophy from 1982. And
he's got a lot of them. It sounds like he's got to get rid of them.
He's got a stash of them.
I've gone through those, and I'm now giving away Seth and Emma's trophies.
Nice.
And then I have another friend, John Menendez, and he gave me his trophies, and I've given away those. And it's hilarious. They'll get my son's Dross Park baseball trophy, and I'll just put right over it best poem in American literature class and hand it to them. Nice. And they love it when they win the contest. But I always preface the contest with, it could be that the best art oftentimes goes completely ignored.
Yep.
So it could be you wrote something that was just on a different level, and if nobody voted for you, that's okay. Mm-hmm. So, but I like it that you have contests. I think that gets people's attention sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm a competitive person, so that would have appealed to me for sure.
Nice. Well, and I think that it's subjective. So
yeah.
And I think that's for a lot of things. There's this study about court cases, and if you are, in the court case before the judge has had lunch, you might get a, more harsh sentencing than if it was after the judge had lunch.
Really?
So yeah. So
you want your case to be heard after lunch,
right? Yes. Good advice, right?
Depends on what he eats. Depends on what he or she eats. I would imagine there's got to be some truth to that too.
Yeah.
We wanted to make sure we talked about the book.
Yes. So this is something that was put together. It's prompts and inspiration for a growing writer. And so there are 52 prompts in there, kind of like a year with Youth Be Heard, where they're writing prompts. It's a writing prompt, a writing tip, and then an inspirational quote that goes along with that. And then there's a page to actually handwrite in the book. And there's 3 categories. So the first category is kind of like the imagery, where you write about sensory and perception, just kind of getting your muscles ready to write with that imagery. The next section is kind of a personal reflection, where it's, prompts that might make you think about your experiences, things you've gone through. Like there's one that says, write a letter to your 18-year-old self, whether that's in the future or in the past. That's just an example of one. And then at the end, there's a creative section. So you can kind of take those first 2 sections and build on them. You can take your life story and you can twist it. You can add in characters. You can give it a different ending. So it's kind of fun to, take what you know and enhance it a little bit.
That's cool. And who buys this book? Is this book available in bookstores?
Yes.
It's available in town, right?
Yeah. It is. It is available at Afterwards Books. So it's a great bookstore in town. We love them. And it's on Amazon as well. Yep. So $15.
How about that? And do the proceeds go to your college fund or what?
Right. They all go to Youth Be Heard. So none of it comes to me. It was a lot of work to put together, but the cover design is by Shannon Corrigan, who is she was an SIUE student. So that's her artwork. She's a really talented artist.
Cool.
Yeah. And then it was put together with a couple other SIUE students here. We've got Emma Bowen and Clara Kaufman. And then Abigail Zajac was the editor. She is an EHS grad. So she gives a lot of credit to Mr. Schleter for her. She's studying writing, and she's actually written a lot for Youth Be Heard. A couple really cool pieces that have gotten a lot of views. So
I love it.
Yeah.
What's the future of Youth Be Heard?
I think reaching more youth, getting more youth perspective out there, youth opinion and perspective. I'm happy with where we're at. although I'd love to grow it, so that we can not kind of have that firm foundation of financial and volunteers and, staff to be able to just have that stability. But I love that we're reaching youth. I think just doing more of that, and getting an awareness so that classroom teachers can use this as a tool for them to continue to build that confidence in their students.
I'm going to. You're going to get some poems in the next 2 weeks from Mr. Leip's American Lit and from also from my sports and lit, and maybe even from my sci-fi class too.
Nice.
We'll have to see about that. Well, I appreciate what you're doing. I think it's really cool. I think it's one of the. I told you it reminds me of the Dave Eggers 826 Valencia project and the good stuff that he's doing. And
yeah.
He's a lot more famous than you, but he's not any more noble, and he's not doing anything better than what you're doing. He's just a little bit more established and using his fame, but I think what you're doing is tremendous, and I think it has potential to grow. And I'm really sorry I didn't go to your fundraiser, but like I said, I'm gonna blame Stacy again for getting COVID because. Anyway.
No, you guys have been awesome. I appreciate you having me and your support and creating this podcast. I mean, that's a form of creativity. You're never too old to create something new. And
why did you look at me when you said that?
I mean, I looked at the wall behind you.
Yeah.
That's some old wood up there.
Even for an old person is what I'm pretty sure is what I heard.
Don't we all always think that we're too old though?
Oh,
like
yeah.
I hear 20-year-olds saying this, like it's too late for me. I'm too old. Like
honestly,
no.
I'm going to retire from teaching in 2 years, and I cannot wait to see what I'm going to be when I grow up.
Right.
Like I'm a sophomore in high school right now.
Yeah.
And like there's so many things that I can't wait to do when I retire. Like I'm excited. I don't feel old. Like my body feels old, but I don't feel intellectually. I feel intellectually young.
Yeah, that's maybe, what you
am I kidding myself?
You need your mind. Your mind is the most important. I remember my dad saying this. He said, Renee, I'm 55 years old and I'm still trying to figure out what I want to be when I grow up.
Absolutely.
So it's never too late.
All right.
That's very true.
Did we leave anything out about Youth Be Heard that you wanted to make sure we talked about? Any other success stories or shout outs that you have? Promotions?
Well, there's several things. What time is it? 8:22. A couple things come to mind. I think one of the other pieces that really inspired Youth Be Heard is media literacy, which is helping people helping them be able to decode the media, to see what's behind it. So asking these questions about like who's profiting from this advertisement or this Facebook ad or, this social media platform, being able to decode that, and which you can do in a history class or you could do with, a book, like who is the author? What was their intention? Who's profiting from this? And being able to create media helps them understand what's behind it. I even had one of our early youth advisory board members, I talked to her about like, how do you understand media differently after you've written something and it's been published? And she said, I realized how easy it is to like be published and put my work out there, which kind of helped her understand like, maybe I shouldn't just believe everything I read on the internet. And the other piece of that is, I kind of got into this because I was looking at mental health data, and especially, the anxiety and depression rates were rising among all youth, but especially among girls. And so I was looking at, what is an intervention that would help prevent that? And media literacy is, kind of connected to this idea that girls have a ton of media that is in their faces about body image, about, selling products. The cosmetic industry is massive, and it's making all this money on this message that like, you're not enough as you are. So you need to have all of these things in order to be enough. And so helping, young women and girls understand that like, there's a cost to that, maybe we're not considering. And I think about how like, if a man can walk out the door, and spend 5 minutes getting ready, like I don't want to spend more time than that. I don't want to spend hours a day. And And so just kind of looking at those high level things and helping them to see behind the media, especially when it comes to mental health and body image, is really important to me. So we have some of these prompts that we'll give out, about media literacy and getting them to kind of process the media. So we kind of weave that in along with the creation piece of helping them. When you create something, you understand how it works a lot better.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
That's like,
They're so good.
I'm so adamant about media literacy. I just feel like it needs to be taught in schools so
It does.
much. It's just so, especially now, it's so vital.
Because there's so much media.
There's so much garbage media too. And like, I think what really caught my eye was when people started posting like Onion articles, obvious satire as like fact, and then getting offended by it. I'm like, this is
joke.
Clearly a joke. It's clearly satire, but they don't get that. And I'm like, well, there's got to be some kind of education process for this because it's getting out of hand. It really is. And it's kind of scary at times because it's so wild. I mean, and the fact, like you said, there's media. Everywhere you go, you're ingesting some kind of media. Phone, TV, radio, podcast, whatever. So yeah, just have a base foundation of, is this, a checklist almost, like to go through it and realize to understand it and to break it down and to be able to use common sense logic to figure out if it's applicable to you or if there's an ulterior motive, like you said, is just, it's imperative to have that. And I don't think that's on a lot of people's radars. Yeah. Unfortunately.
And the media never leaves their eyes.
Oh yeah.
As a teacher, I did an interview yesterday. A young girl going into education she said, "What's the difference between kids now and when you started?" And I said, "I never tell kids to be quiet anymore. Kids walk into my classroom and nobody speaks. They all stare at their phone.
Oh man.
And they don't say a word.
Yeah.
And then what I have to say is, put your phones away all hour long, like constantly. And then if the phone goes away, then they're looking at something on their computer unless I monitor that as well."
Yeah.
So that media and that those eyes are just glued to that screen nonstop. And it's social and it's media. It's social media, but it's also TikTok videos and just inane garbage that just
such.
And sometimes I'll look at it. I'll look at what they're looking at and I'll say, what we're looking at and talking about is so much more interesting than just this stupidity that you're staring at. But
I mean, it's small doses that are purposely made that way to raise your dopamine and get you that drip. And I agree, like that stuff that you're teaching is far more interesting, but it's just easily digestible to them, and I've become guilty of it. And it's these damn things, really make it easy to fall down that hole.
Well, we've just created the technology, but we haven't yet figured out how to use it and how to monitor it and how to teach our kids how to use it. It's just the Wild West. They've got it, and we haven't figured out yet how to regulate it for them. Yeah. Like, it's so dangerous.
Well, your brain is still primitive, and then you've got this new thing that it never has. It's a fresh, brand new, never-ending conveyor belt of entertainment, quote unquote, and it's just being shoved in your head, and your lizard brain is just like, what do I do with this? I guess I like this. Let's just keep doing it, and it's just not. They don't click. They don't go together. So, like you said, regulation of some kind, or at least education, and figuring out how to. I don't even know what a good alternative would be, except lock your phones up for X amount of hours.
You go to the restaurant, your 3-year-old starts to scream, you hand her the tablet, and now you've got peace. Yep. And that's just such a slippery slope.
Oh, man. My God, I know.
All right, we're kind of off the topic. Do me a favor, come back. Yeah. Let's stay in touch. Let's collaborate.
Yeah.
Let's have a kid from Youth Be Heard. What I like is that you go up to 24 years old. Mm-hmm. So you're not just
because the brain is not fully developed until 25, right?
Seriously?
So, yeah.
I don't think
That's
I'm there
what-
yet. I think I'm still working. I know. I
I
know.
mean,
So again,
actually-
this is so
My
harmful
brain-
because your brain
Yeah.
is still developing at that
Right.
point. And
Exactly. And we can't handle it. How do we expect
I know.
them
It's,
to
yeah.
handle it?
No
right.
kidding.
Well, let's have one of your featured artists
Yeah.
on here. Somebody that you think. Let's give somebody some more format.
Yeah.
Maybe do another show with some of those folks as well, because I want to stay close to what you're doing, because I think it's great. I really appreciate it. I really believe in it, and we need more of it. We need more people like you
Oh,
who are
thanks.
interested in mental and emotional health, and not as interested in getting rich.
There you go.
You're like me. We're poor, but we're
Right.
we're trying.
We're trying hard.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
thanks, Dave. I appreciate you too, and for just giving this a space to get some awareness, and for what you're doing and elevating creativity. I think we need more of that. So it's fantastic, and for
right.
teaching, that's not easy.
it's fun though. I've had a good time. Anything else?
That's good for me. It was great talking to you, Renee. It was great
Yeah.
meeting you, and awesome conversation. Yeah. So
Yeah.
please come back.
Thanks, Ryan. Appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you all for listening to the Creatures of Creativity podcast presented by Whole Street Productions, and a huge thanks to our guest, Renee Childs of Youth Be Heard. Thanks so much, Renee.
Thanks for having me.